Conservative cowardice. As much as political liberals want a giant mommy state to protect and care for everyone, political conservatives want a giant daddy state doing the same thing. The results are slightly different, but the underlying delusion is the same. The desire for an all-powerful authority to protect humanity from reality. The right-wing delusion focuses less on motherly pampering and hand-holding and focuses more on fatherly protection and discipline. Conservatives want authority to be used to create a big, powerful protection machine and to firmly impose morality upon the population, which they imagine to be necessary for the survival of mankind. The denial of reality is just as strong as that of the leftists. Again, the island analogy demonstrates the point well. If 100 people were shipwrecked on an island, who would imagine that forcing most of them to serve and obey a protector would be necessary or useful? And who would imagine that letting one or two of them forcibly impose their morals on the rest would make such a group more virtuous? A conservative daddy form of government is the equivalent of a disciplinarian father who acts as a protector of the family from outside forces, the equivalent to a government military, and protector of each member of the family from others in the family, the equivalent of domestic law enforcement, and the one who keeps undesirables away from the family, the equivalent of immigration laws, as well as the enforcer of morality who punishes family members who disobey the rules. This last item equates to laws against pornography, prostitution, gambling, drug use, and other habits and behaviors, which, although they do not constitute force or fraud against anyone, are thought by many to be destructive physically, morally, or spiritually to those who engage in them. But trying to forcibly impose morality is more damaging than the behaviors themselves. Aside from the fact that no one has the right to forcibly control the nonviolent choices of another, it is also horribly dangerous to set the precedent that it is okay to use violence to stamp out unseemly or disasterful behavior. Once such a premise is accepted in principle, human society will be a constant war of everyone against everyone. There will never be a time when everyone shares the same values and same viewpoints. Peace and freedom cannot exist if every difference of opinion and every difference in lifestyles or behaviors leads to the violent conflict via government coercion. Civilization, a state of peaceful coexistence, is not the result of everyone believing the same thing, but of people agreeing to refrain from initiating violence even against people who do not believe the same things. Conservative statism, just as much as the liberal version, guarantees perpetual strife and conflict because it seeks to override free will and individual judgment with the so-called morality of a ruling class, whose first principle is forced conformity and sameness. Of course, violence cannot create virtue, even if it sometimes creates obedience. So, all attempts by authority to coerce people into being moral and virtuous are doomed to fail, and ultimately do nothing but increase the levels of violence and conflict in society.